Houston, our instruments are showing that we have a incoming message from deep space. Repeat, Houston, we have an incoming message from deep space. Houston, we will begin playing message now. Houston, we're going to try and translate that up here. Hold for translation. Translation complete. We'll begin playing message now.
Hey, it's me, Melissa.
What do you do when the aliens invade? Take a shot of MK Ultra and watch Melissa Jade. Put on your tinfoil hat and tune right in. We got their crime spree, flat earth theories, government conspiracies, a complex Mandela effects, unidentified objects, a mind expanding, fake moon landing, what it all bends understanding. It's me, Melissa. It's me, Melissa. Aliens is on the sun or in Area 51. Time travels, unravels, haunted castles, cops are baffled, potential experimental thoughts that make you transcendental. It's me, Melissa. It's me, Melissa. Crime sprees, flat earth theories, government conspiracies, complex Mandela effects, unidentified objects, a mind expanding, fake moon landing, what it all bends understanding. It's me, Melissa. It's me, Melissa.
Hi, guys. How are you? Hi, Roger versus Kim. Legendary. The man, the myth, the legend. We have Sexy Wild Thing, Carol freaking Claus, which reminds me, because we have Carol freaking Claus in the house, tomorrow, if you guys are interested, we have an episode of Twisted Tuesday, and we're going to be covering Sarah Boone and Letitia Stout, and we're going to be discussing the new Sarah Boone letter and how she is most likely going to be going pro se. And we're going to also be going through some of the new Letitia Stout jailhouse calls that are being released. I know over on Alex Erickson's channel, she went through some of them the other night. So if you didn't check it out, definitely go over and show her some love. And I'll drop her link. And so we're going to go through some of that and discuss some of that stuff. So if you're interested, be here tomorrow. I know my claws love some Sarah Boone. We need the spigot in the house. Hi, it's Sherry. Hi, Hippie Chick. Hi, True Crime Crazy. KK True Crime. Johnny Kramer. Hey, Wolfie. Lucia, Eddie, Sasha, Angel D. Thank you, Angel. Thank you very much. We have TLC is me. Melissa, my fellow Melissa. And we have, look here, Amber. Hi, Amber. Cool Gamer. And we have Chlo Chlo. I've been waiting. I've been waiting for Chlo Chlo to come back. Hi, Chlo Chlo. It's so good to see you. It's my Chlo Chlo, guys. Now I can't ever call you Chlo Chlo. You will forever be Chlo Chlo. Hi, Jen P. Let's go to Costco. I'm saying it like that, Wolfie, because unfortunately that's how I pronounced it the first time Chlo came into my chat. And I said, "Oh, thank you, welcome, Chlo." And I think it was Shay had to say, "I think it's pronounced Clo." And I'm like, "Oh dear Lord, it's another Musicity mom." And so now she's forever Chlo. But I love it. Listen, you have one shot. You have one shot when you're up on panel to get like a name right. I felt bad for her. She did. She's like, you butchered it, but I was just gonna let you go with it. I know. You have one shot to get the name right. And sometimes like I read it differently. And it just comes, I don't know, man. So yeah, you're Chlo. Hey Marcus. I did not perceive it to be Clo. Definitely not. But it makes so much more sense. It makes so much more sense than Chlo. But okay. So what I wanted to do today, I did. I failed majorly. But you know what? Did you expect anything else? I was like, she's never coming back. Chlo's never gonna come back. And so I was so excited when I saw you. I was like, yes, she's here. Hi Tony. Okay. Yeah, Decatur. So I know, Lucia, but I don't do it intentionally. That's the problem though. It would be fine if like I intentionally did it. This shit just comes out. Okay. So, yeah, like I said, tomorrow we're going to be doing Twisted Tuesday, and we're going to be going over Sarah Boone updates and some of the Letitia Stout stuff. So basically, crazy biatches. So if you're interested in that, make sure your reminders are set. It's already scheduled. And then what I wanted to do. So we have a couple of new documents that got released. Hey, Richie. We got a couple of new documents that got released, nothing too big, but I wanted to kind of break down because I'm really interested in this. "24 issues." And if you don't know what I'm referring to, I'm referring to the motion to dismiss. Here, let me pull it up. The motion to dismiss that was filed, it says, "Come now, Brian C. Kohberger, through his attorneys of record, and files a motion to dismiss indictment on grounds of a biased ground jury, inadmissible evidence, lack of sufficient evidence, and prosecutorial misconduct by withholding exculpatory evidence. This motion is based on the state's various violations during the grand jury pursuant to Idaho Code," and then there's all the Idaho codes, "and prosecutor misconduct pursuant to Idaho Code." And then it says, "Mr. Kohberger raises 24 issues, which are set forth in full in the memorandum in support of motion to dismiss indictment and its attachments." So, and hi Jen Puff. So this is specifically right how they bypassed the preliminary hearing and they did the secret grand jury and they indicted Brian Kohberger. So this is specifically on that indictment and trying to get that indictment thrown out. And so all of these 24 issues are specifically surrounding that indictment with the grand jury. Heavy chick, really? Okay. I think so too, Jen Puff. Okay, so I'm interested in hearing. Hi, Air Force vet. I'm interested in hearing all takes. Here's the thing, like Oof, this is one of those cases. This is one of those cases where there is no middle ground. And when I say that, that doesn't mean that there aren't people who are just kind of chilling in the middle versus it's vicious out there. It's either one side or the other, and both sides are like on the attack. So the jovial juror says, I think Ann Taylor is just a queen at wordplay, nothing more and nothing less. It's standard for the defense attorney to ask charges to be dropped. Lori Vallow's attorneys did it too. I think that this is a very good point and a very good possibility. And this is what I meant. Remember last live 2 days ago when I said it's almost like a lot of people who have come out during this case have never followed a case in real time as far as like the court aspect of it, because they're finding things strange that aren't necessarily strange. Now, when I say that, that doesn't mean that there aren't strange things that are happening. There absolutely are. But I'm just saying, like, I've seen them point out things that aren't strange and calling it strange. There are things that are happening that absolutely should be anticipated to be happening, and people are like, oh my God, you know, like, hi, my fellow Jade. Yeah, Dutchad. Okay, so this is okay. So what I thought, let's go through these codes. All right. We could get a lot more information. Angel T. Schloberger. Let's go through these codes because unfortunately, a lot of these issues are sealed, right? Majority of these issues are sealed. We're not privy to them. We got a sneak peek, right? And the sneak peek is a lot. It's a lot. Biased grand jury, inadmissible evidence, lack of sufficient evidence, and prosecutorial misconduct in withholding exculpatory evidence. Those are massive claims. Those are massive, massive claims. And the most consistent thing I've seen people say on, I don't want to say the opposing side, because I don't want to have a side, but I have a side I'm leaning towards, right? But for the people who think that are leaning more towards Brian's innocence, they say that there's no way that, like, basically they're taking this as fact, like it happened because it's stated here. I hope that makes sense. Like, because it's written here in this motion that it 100% happened. Now, that's not the case. That doesn't mean that it didn't. It also doesn't mean that it did either. This is just claims right now. It has to be backed up and proven, though. But what I've noticed is a lot of people saying, hi, Kaleida Hope. Hi, Susie. V. Oakley. Lovely seeing you guys. Hi, Jordan. What I've seen a lot of people say is, well, Anne's not going to put her livelihood on the line, her reputation on the line. She took this. Oh, she doesn't have to. Like, she's doing everything she's supposed to be doing, and there's a way that they can present things and fight things. And when I say that, I'm not saying that these aren't legitimate issues, but there have been plenty of times where things haven't been legitimate issues and a lawyer can fight them anyway. Like, there's like ways you could go about doing it. Oh no, Jordan. I hope everything's okay. Prayers for you. That grand jury was the same type of grand jury with the same set of rules that Idaho has used for hundreds of years. If that gets thrown out, then hundreds of others would too. Okay, so let's take the grand jury. Hi, Cujo. Let's take the grand jury, for instance, on its own. People blew up about that. That's a great example of what people made a mountain from a tiny molehill from, like people thought it was so odd that it was a grand jury versus a preliminary. It's actually not unusual at all. It's not what we wanted, but it's not unusual. But there were so many people who jumped to the conclusion that they have to be covering something up because they didn't do the preliminary. They did the secret grand jury. Oh my God. No, not necessarily. This isn't unusual. Again, this is very standard. Definitely Detra Ed. And wanted that preliminary hearing, that grand jury thing through her 100%. 150%. I couldn't agree with you more. And I think that a good portion of her defense, hi B Crumbs, a good portion of her defense was going to be based off of what she was going to receive in testimony. Dylan and Bethany's testimonies are huge to the defense. How is Anne supposed to know how exactly to build her defense when she doesn't know exactly everything this witness is going to say? And these are, again, more of the reasons of why I am leaning more towards guilty. People get very mad when I say that. I had people popping off in my comment section last week when I dropped my video saying that the waiver of the speedy trial, it just kind of made me feel more solid in his guilt. People are like, I hope you never sit on a jury, da da da. And I'm like, yo, this is just my opinion, all right? It's my opinion based on what I'm looking at in front of me as of right now. If tomorrow comes and there's a massive amount of information that comes in and there's evidence that points elsewhere, I'm not set in stone. I'm totally open to being swayed in a different direction. But as it stands now, this is my opinion. But people get genuinely mad. First of all, I'm not sitting on a jury right now. Okay? I'm sitting on my channel. This is my channel. And I'm here to give my opinion. And I'd love to hear your guys' opinions. I love discussing it with you guys. But I cannot stand when people come over here and basically scream and tell me how stupid I am, instead of, hey, I completely disagree with you, and here's why, X, Y, Z. Tell me why you disagree. I'd love to hear why, but just don't call me stupid. Don't tell me, I hope to God that you never sit on a jury. Why? I'm not sitting on a jury. I'm not. I'm sitting on my chair right now on my damn YouTube channel, and I'm here to give my opinions. That's what we're here for. I'm guessing that your opinion is opposite of mine, right? I can respect your opinion. You should be able to respect mine. It's simple as that. That's the glorious thing about, right? That's the hardest part about getting 12 jurors to agree. The likelihood that all 12 are going to agree is small because everyone is so different. I do agree that things don't add up, but I could absolutely acknowledge that collectively, all of the all of the circumstantial evidence that has been presented, yes, in words so far, I am giving that level of trust, right? The same way Judge said, you have to give that level of trust that this is all legitimate and it's going to be proven. With that being said, with the evidence presented so far, I acknowledge that it points towards his involvement. More so than it points not towards his involvement. Now, if something comes up tomorrow and it points in a different way, then okay. But people get mad. Hey, I'm Yanka. Hi, it's Mimi. So what do you mean, Jules, in regards to what happened with Vargas? Is that what you're referring to? Yes, Roger. It's kind of like as you get down to the wire, you know, like I personally think that they were not able. They had until September 8th. They had until September 8th to provide that alibi. And that alibi had to, if they were going with the alibi defense, and that alibi had to be putting Brian Kohberger at some other place other than the King Road residence at the time that the murders occurred. They could not do that, in my opinion. They could not do that. And so at that point, not getting the preliminary hearing, not being able to question these witnesses, not being able to get a good enough understanding of how tight those eyewitnesses are. How can Anne build a defense? Because again, in my opinion, he's guilty. So she's supposed to build a defense that works around and fits in to what an eyewitness saw. So you kind of have to work around it, right? But if you don't know what they, like, if you don't have all of their information, you can't get hung up, because once you put in your defense, that's it. You can't all of a sudden work around it once more information comes out. That's why it made the most sense to extend this out, take our time, because if we don't, you're going to get screwed. That's how I am perceiving it. That's just my opinion. I went a little early. Hi, Michelle. And hi, Open Mind Perspective. Sportsy Girl. BG. And that's possible too, Jules. And I think that I have concerns over similar things with that, Jules. I have concerns over Brian is the guy, but there was missteps and there was protocol that was broken and corners that may have been cut, definitely including IGG. Hi, Necessity Mom. Definitely including IGG. Not necessarily because they won't hand it over. I don't think that, listen, if they don't have to hand it over, why would they hand it over? Hi, Sofla Mama. I love your picture. Your picture looks beautiful, Sofla Mama. Hi, Tallulah Shark. I don't blame the prosecutor. Why hand something over unless you have to hand it over? I get that part, but I do have concerns either way with the IGG that they may have entered in like a profile the way that they weren't supposed to, just because it would have been so easy. Like it would have been very easy to do it. You know what I mean? I miss you too, Soulful Mama. It's so good to see you. Right, Dave Base. But these claims in here, this is so. Anne wants this grandeur. She wants this out. She wants it gone. Why? Why does Ann Taylor want this indictment thrown out so desperately? Michelle, I've heard mixed reviews. I've heard in some instances yes, and then in other instances no. I don't know. I don't know. Yeah, block 87 and try it out. Even if they did, Blackthorn said, and hello, even if they did, it's not illegal because there are no laws. Sneaky, underhanded, maybe, but why can only the defense use loopholes? Well, why do you say that, Jules? Okay, because Jules says, in my opinion, they intimidated Bethany and Dylan as well. Okay, and I totally respect your opinion, but I'm going to ask, what are you basing that on? Like, did something specifically happen that you're basing that opinion on, or are you just looking at other things that have happened and just making kind of an assumption based on that? Bell Moon says, in my opinion, terabytes prosecution gave the defense by law. There is evidence the defense knows is inculpatory. Absolutely. But as of now, defense has only presented motions alleging flaws in procedures, not exculpatory. Yes. That's possible, Green Punk. That's possible. And I've speculated, hey, what if originally Dylan and Bethany were kind of on the same page and then eventually weren't? I've gone through every scenario in my head. Oh, here. Mimi had sent me this. Let me show you. Regarding the IGG. I'll show you. So this is right, the jovial juror. It doesn't belong to the defense. The prosecution is not using it. State is not using it. It is a tip. They are not using it during trial to convict Brian Kohberger. They are not presenting it as evidence. It's not going to be an exhibit. They are not using it. Therefore, they do not need to hand it over because they're not using it. But defense is trying to uncover potential corners cut and improper protocol, and I guess if they used these ancestry sites like the genetic genealogy sites improperly, some could be illegal. Hi, Harlot. It was. I came early. Maybe. Well, no, she's trying to dismiss it. So, throwing it out, just my terminology for it. But my point is that all it's going to do is just start the process again. So I didn't finish my thought. My thought was like, okay, if you get the indictment dismissed and the process starts again, does she think that she could avoid an indictment? I don't know. Yeah, Dave Bass. They are, Susie. I mean, and that's the defense's job. I get it. You know, I don't expect anything less. This is exactly what I expect, you know. So with the, and thank you to Mimi for sending this. So it's the forensic genetic genealogical DNA analysis and searching. And this is the United States Department of Justice interim policy. This is explaining the tool. Okay. So it says the purpose of this interim policy is to promote the reasoned exercise of investigative, scientific, and prosecutorial discretion in cases that involve forensic, genetic, genealogical, DNA analysis, and searching. It provides guidance to department agencies when formulating a thoughtful and collaborative approach to important interdisciplinary decisions in cases that utilize this investigative technique. Collaborations between investigators, laboratory personnel, and prosecutors is important because the decision to pursue FGGS may affect privacy interests, the consumption of forensic samples, and law enforcement's ability to solve violent crime. So it says the department must handle information and data derived from FGGS in accordance with applicable laws, regulations, policies, and procedures. When using new technologies like FGGS, the department is committed to developing practices that protect reasonable interests in privacy, while allowing law enforcement to make effective use of FGGS to help identify violent criminals, exonerate innocent suspects, and ensure the fair and impartial administration of justice to all Americans. It says the department will continue to assess its investigative tool and techniques. So let me get to the application. So the Department of Justice has exclusive or concurrent jurisdiction of the crime under investigation, and the agency has lawful custody, control, or authority to use a forensic sample for FGGS, or 2, any criminal investigation in which the department provides funding to a federal, state, local, or tribal agency to conduct FGG or FGGS, or 3, any criminal investigation in which department employees or contractors conduct genealogical research or leads. We get this part. Okay. This is the background explaining how they do it. What the genetic testing is, how they go about it. So limitations. If the search of an FGG profile results in one or more genetic associations, the GG service typically generates and provides the service user with a list of genetically associated service usernames along with an estimated relationship, and in some cases, the amount of DNA shared by those individuals. A suspect shall not be arrested based solely on a genetic association generated by a GG service. If a suspect is identified after a genetic association has occurred, STR DNA typing must be performed, and the suspect's STR DNA profile must be directly compared to the forensic profile previously uploaded to CODIS. The comparison is necessary to confirm that the forensic sample could have originated from the suspect. And that is what happened. They got his DNA, they got from the dad. And hi everybody who just came in. Sorry, whenever I'm sharing screen, I can't see the chat. But hi anybody who just came in. Hi Akasha, Sweet Misery True Crime. Hi guys. Hi Meatfoot. Hi Lulu Love. Texas Ranger. Okay, OCD Shaggy. If dismissed, the prosecution can present to another grand jury the same day. Exactly, Belmoon. So I'm trying to figure out, like, what if anything Anne specifically is trying to grab from it, or just the standard, nope, let me try to like bump it out, and the chance that maybe the next one won't indict him. I don't know. So the investigative collaboration, if each of the criteria set forth in section 5 has been satisfied, the investigative agency shall contact a designated official at the CODIS lab that uploaded the forensic profile to CODIS. But this is if it's unidentified at this point. Okay. After consulting with the DLO, the investigative agency shall contact the prosecutor. The investigative agency shall advise the prosecutor of the nature and status of the investigation, the results of the DLO's evaluation of the candidate forensic sample, and any reasonable scientific alternatives to FGG as provided by the DLO. After discussing these issues and based on the information provided, the prosecutor and the investigative agency must agree that the candidate forensic sample is suitable for FGG and that FGGS is a necessary and appropriate step at that stage of the investigation to develop investigative leads or to identify the unidentified human remains. So, investigative caution. Investigative agencies shall identify themselves as law enforcement to GG services and enter and search FGG profiles only in those GG services that provide explicit notice to their service users and the public that law enforcement may use their service sites to investigate crimes or to identify unidentified human remains. So if you guys remember, this is what the entire fight was about. Was there's certain sites like 23andMe or whatever that you have the potential to opt in or opt out for your DNA to be used to potentially, for, police to use it to identify human remains or to help, solve crimes or whatever it is. So if it's a site that does not allow, you have to provide notice. You have to go about it properly. The investigative agency shall, if possible, configure service site user settings that control access to FGG profile data and associated account information in a manner that will prevent it from being viewed by other service users. In certain cases, the genetic association of an FGG profile with a GG service user, in conjunction with subsequent genealogy research, may identify one or more third parties who may have a closer kinship relationship to the donor of the forensic sample than the associated GG service user. In such cases, the acquisition of reference samples from these third parties for the purpose of conducting FGGS may help the investigative agency identify the donor of the forensic sample. An investigative agency must seek informed consent from third parties before collecting reference samples that will be used for FGGS, unless it concludes that case-specific circumstances provide reasonable grounds to believe that this request would compromise the integrity of the investigation. If that determination is made, the investigative agency shall consult with and receive approval from the prosecutor before covertly collecting any reference sample that will be used for FGGS. The investigative agency shall also consult with the DLO, who may provide guidance to investigators about the type and nature of biological samples that may prove most conducive to FGG analysis. Covert collection shall be conducted in a lawful manner. In addition, a search warrant shall be obtained by the investigative agency before a vendor laboratory conducts FGG analysis on any covertly collected reference sample. It's a lot to read. So FGGS is a law enforcement technique used to generate investigative leads. Investigative agencies shall not arrest a suspect based solely on a genetic association generated by a GG service. Traditional genealogy research and other investigative work is required to determine the true nature of any genetic association. So all profiles and account information and data shall be treated as confidential government information consistent with any applicable laws, regulation, policies, and procedures. If a suspect is arrested and charged with a criminal offense while FGG is in progress, the investigative agency shall promptly contact the relevant vendor laboratory and direct that all testing cease at a point in time when the sample can be preserved. The investigative agency shall also request that the sample be returned directly to the submitting law enforcement agency as applicable, and it shall document its request and compliance by the vendor. If a suspect is arrested and charged with a criminal offense after a profile has been entered into one or more of the services, the investigative agency shall make a prompt formal request that all profiles and associated account information and data held by any such service be removed from its records and provided directly to the investigative agency. The investigative agency shall document its request and compliance. All FGG profiles, account information, and data shall be retained by the investigative agency for potential use during prosecution and subsequent judicial proceedings. If a suspect has been arrested after the profile, the agency shall promptly remove the profile and all associated account information. They should document the removal of the information and data, and it shall be retained for use for the prosecution and subsequent judicial proceedings. All cases that result in a criminal prosecution, reference samples obtained from third parties shall be destroyed by the investigative agency only after the entry of an appropriate judicial order. The investigative agency shall document the authorized destruction of these samples, profiles, information, and data. So that's interesting, huh? So them destroying it is actually protocol. But there will be a record of it. And sorry, I know that was a mouthful. That was a lot for me to read. Hi, Shay. It's literally destroy it. How weird is that? Shall be destroyed. Huh. Well, and there you go. So now we know. So, because honestly, when I heard that it was destroyed, like that they got rid of it, that they deleted the profile, I was like, huh? That was something that was like peculiar to me. But that's why it's so important to do the research, because now we know it's not unusual. There will be documentation of it and a paper trail, but this is the standard protocol of exactly what should happen. As weird as that is. Legendary. Right, Jaded? Okay. So now what I wanted to do is to hop back over to that motion to dismiss, because like I said, they gave us a few things here: biased grand jury, inadmissible evidence, lack of sufficient evidence, and prosecutorial misconduct in withholding exculpatory evidence. But what I wanted to do was try to peek into these codes and see what they reveal. The profile, Legendary, the IgG profile. There's a podcast interview of workers. How do I, can he send it to me, Desiree D? What, is it cutting off people's names? Well, they would have it, Casey Rain. We wouldn't have access to it, but they would have access to it. I know, Susie, I know. Hold on. I can see clearly now. No, their argument was that they want the work, Casey Rain. They want to see the work they did, like the profile that was built. I didn't hear anything as far as we want to see the documentation to prove that it was destroyed. Okay. So let's pull up that first. All right. So the first one that says the state's various violation during the grand jury pursuant to Idaho Code. OCD Shaggy. Shout out to you and your mods for making this channel enjoyable to participate in. Mods can sometimes make or break how good the live can be. Thank you, OCD Shaggy. I have some amazing freaking mods, and I know every channel says that, so like whatever, but I do. I have some amazing freaking mods, and I appreciate every single one of them. So thank you so much. That really means a lot. Shout out to the mods. So Idaho Criminal Rule 6.7, that is discharge of grand jury. So Idaho Criminal Rule 6.7 is a discharge of grand jury. Grand jury must serve until discharged by the court, but no grand jury may serve more than 6 months unless specifically ordered by the court that summoned the grand jury. So what would a violation of that be? So a grand jury must serve until discharged by the court, but no grand jury may serve more than 6 months. I don't know. Oh, Jaded, yeah. My mods very rarely have to use their wrench. We're very chillaxed here. And so, like if you ever get timed out, you had to have done something pretty bad because we don't do that here. But I have some awesome mods. I do. Aw, thanks, guys. That's weird. What does that mean? Okay. What would a violation of that mean, though? A grand jury must serve until discharged by the court. What kind of violation would that be? Guess I'll look up the next one, but that one doesn't make sense to me. N48. Okay. 48. Idaho Criminal Rule 48 allows the court to dismiss a criminal action on its own motion or on motion of any party on either of the following grounds: lack of jurisdiction, improper venue, failure to state an offense, failure to prosecute, any other ground that appears to be just and proper. An order for dismissal is a bar to any other prosecution for the same offense if it is a misdemeanor, unless the order of dismissal is due to the defendant's agreement to participate in a diversion program pursuant to, which we're not. So this one is Idaho Criminal Rule 48 allows the court to dismiss a criminal action on its own motion or on a motion of any party on the grounds of lack of jurisdiction, improper venue, failure to state an offense, or failure to prosecute. All right. So see this already, I could already see what, I'm sorry, guys. I already see where this is going. Exactly, Mimi. I'm sorry, but I already see where this is going. This is going to be really like, so many people are like 24 issues, and so was I. 24 violations. Oh my goodness. But it's going to be really not, it doesn't mean all 24 are, but I guarantee 20 out of the 24 are going to be really all right, I don't want to say irrelevant because everything is relevant, but minimal things like, well, technically, like just something like where you get 10 points off of your test because you didn't write your name at the top type of deal. You know what I mean? Like type of that type of thing where, yeah, and that 10 points is what failed you. Does that make sense? Like to where, yeah, that 10 points can make or break you. Don't get me wrong, but like it was your name. It was your name. You didn't have to study for it. You didn't have to know shit. It was your name. You knew it, but you still got 10 points off, and that was the 10 points that failed you type of deal. I hope that makes sense, like, because that's the only way I can explain it. I know, Dave Bass. I'm trying to just get an idea, though. Okay, I'm going through. Idaho Rules of Evidence and Idaho Criminal Rule 6.1B1. Okay, so Idaho Rule, and they even cited that, and that's what Sleuthie was talking about when she was up here last time. Okay. B1. All right, so Idaho Criminal Rule 6.1 states that if a person voluntarily appears before a magistrate while a warrant for the defendant's arrest is outstanding for a misdemeanor or contempt of court, the magistrate shall have the discretion either to require the person to appear before an arresting authority for arrest and booking before the person can appear before the magistrate, or to enter an order quashing the warrant and cause a copy of the order to be sent to the agency holding the original warrant, or deliver a copy. That's the rule also allows the prosecuting attorney of the county in which the grand jury is sitting, or one or more deputies, or a special prosecuting attorney, to attend all sessions of the grand jury except during the deliberations of the grand jury after the presentation of the evidence. Hey, I said her name and she showed up. I rubbed the Sleuthie lamp. There she is. Okay. So the rule, and I'm guessing that's the B part. Okay, because it's the second part. So the rule also allows the prosecuting attorney of the county in which the grand jury is sitting, or one or more deputies, or a special prosecuting attorney, to attend all sessions of the grand jury except the deliberations of the grand jury after the presentation of evidence. So does that mean prosecutor misconduct? Does that mean that he attended when he wasn't supposed to? Is that what that means? That he was present during deliberations, perhaps? And I'm asking, like, because I'm trying to understand. So Idaho Criminal Rule 6.1B1 is about the powers and duties of the prosecuting attorney with the grand jury. The prosecuting attorney has the power and duty to present to the grand jury evidence of any public offense. However, when a prosecutor conducting a grand jury inquiry is personally aware of substantial evidence which directly negates the guilt of the subject of the investigation, the prosecutor must present or otherwise disclose that evidence to the grand jury. Okay, so this comes into the exculpatory. Gotcha. I'm talking to myself. I gotcha. No, I got myself. I answered my own question. So this got it. It's the prosecutorial misconduct because he did not present the exculpatory evidence. That's what it is. Right, Suthi. Yep, I answered my own question. Sometimes it just takes me a minute. It's a Jade thing. Jaded. Exactly, Suthi. I just got to work it out in my brain. But okay, so she specifically knows what she's referring to with exculpatory evidence. She has something very specific in mind she wants brought up. They don't. So, okay, so that's the thing. That's a great point, Casey Rain. So this is when that argument of it's not a beyond the reasonable doubt. It's just, I have to find the specific, because I don't want to say the specific words. It's not beyond a reasonable doubt. It's just, let me find it. Hi, King Scarlet. The prosecution knows about exculpatory evidence and inculpatory evidence. The defense knows about exculpatory evidence and inculpatory evidence. The state is going to focus on inculpatory evidence. The defense is going to focus on exculpatory evidence. That's just what they're going to do. Well, that's a great question, Jen. And what if the prosecution didn't consider? That's actually a really good question, because what if they don't agree? Like, what's the standard of exculpatory and inculpatory evidence? I would love to know when, like, who makes that? Like, do they have to present it? Top chat should be illegal, Shay. Well, King Scarlet, like, there's probably I could imagine not everything fitting perfectly black and white within the law. So do they present it to the judge? No, this part doesn't say. This says, and prosecutor misconduct. But up here says prosecutorial misconduct in withholding exculpatory evidence. So maybe it's two separate things. I wonder what specific, because that she has something specific in mind. She has something very specific in mind. And I'm going to assume, I don't know, but I'm going to assume it's probably going to be the Bethany thing only. And I'm making that assumption only because we heard exculpatory in reference to Bethany before. That's what I'm thinking, Casey Rain. Maybe they have something else. Maybe it's the other DNA. I don't know. I want to look up what Idaho's guidelines for okay, hold on. Evidence. Okay. In Idaho, the prosecuting attorney must disclose to the defendant or defendant's counsel any material or information in the prosecuting attorney's possession or control that tends to negate the guilt of the accused as the offense charged or that would tend to reduce the punishment for the offense. Discovery may be made by deposition, written interrogatories, production of documents, entry upon land or other property for inspection or other purposes, physical and mental examinations, and requests for admission. In a recent case, the defense believes forensic evidence collected from the defendant's family home may contain exculpatory evidence. The Idaho rules of evidence define exculpatory evidence as evidence that tends to establish the innocence of an accused or that tends to mitigate the guilt of an accused. See, again, it's just very broad. And so I'm sure lots of things can be argued that could fall within it. So I'm just curious if maybe they didn't argue this in front of the judge, and that's why the state's going to be like, this isn't exculpatory evidence. Defense is going to be like, it is, and because it hadn't been brought in front of the judge yet. Is personally aware of substantial evidence which directly negates the guilt of the subject is beyond exculpatory, such as potentially Dylan picking someone else out of a lineup. Do you think she did a lineup? Or is just like an example? That directly negates. That doesn't make any sense that if they had other DNA that led them away from Brian, they would be looking to try to find the person who committed this crime. Well, and I think that's Anne's entire argument is I want to see that this case wasn't built around Brian, like it led you to Brian versus built around Brian. I want to see that you put in the same efforts and did the same steps regarding the other DNA and eliminated them as potential possibilities, potential suspects, versus did you build this entire case around my client type of deal. Hypothetical. If she picked the wrong person out of a hypothetical lineup, that info would be exculpatory, but that wouldn't be as specific as what this rule is citing. Okay. Hold on. Let me go back to the rule. And I'm so sorry, but this is the way my brain works. I have to be kind of like repetitive. So allows the prosecuting attorney of the county in which the grand jury is sitting, or one or more deputies, or a special prosecuting attorney to attend all sessions of the grand jury, except during the deliberations of the grand jury after the presentation of evidence. AT has a well-documented history of filing vague motions with many unsupported conclusions and very grandiose and erroneous allegations of misconduct by many adversarial attorneys and law enforcement judges. Really? Exculpatory info doesn't directly negate guilt. What could be video footage of him somewhere else or video of someone else actively committing that? If they have that, I would have anticipated that. If they had that, though, Sleuthy, I think it would have been presented a while ago. I really do. A case that I have been revisiting again lately has had issues of prosecutorial evidence after conviction, but the appellate denied the appeal because the evidence was strong enough to confirm guilt. Yeah, they are confident. Okay. Hold on. I want. So example, the prosecution has a CCTV footage from the crime scene that shows someone else committing the crime. This is a material evidence that shows that the accused is not guilty. The CCTV footage is an exculpatory evidence in this case. Example 2. In a murder case, a man was arrested from the crime scene along with a blood-stained knife. According to the suspect, he was trying to help the victim by taking out the knife. During investigation, an eyewitness identifies another man as the murderer. The testimony of this witness is exculpatory evidence that must be disclosed to the accused so that he can prove his innocence. Example 3. DNA or fingerprint evidence not matching with the accused is also an exculpatory evidence that has to be disclosed to the defense counsel. Such evidence can play a major role in the outcome of the case. In short, evidence collected from the crime scene, forensic analysis reports, investigative notes, and recordings of statements, audio or video, are considered exculpatory evidence. The prosecution must disclose the evidence to the defense, even if it is not so solid. So do you think maybe it was originally something that Anne saw in Bethany's interviews, and that's why she wanted to conduct her own interview? It was after sitting down reviewing her interviews on footage that she's like, wait a second. And that's why she's like, I think that there's a good chance that she may have something that could be exculpatory to my client, and I want to conduct my own interview to get more information. Risk her career for a lie. Brian is innocent and Ann Taylor is going to prove it. She's got the goods. Okay. Tiffany, to be fair, defense attorneys don't work in lies or not lies, okay? That's not how defense attorneys work. I'm sorry, but that's just the truth. They like separate Brian Kohberger, and I'm talking generally speaking. Defense attorneys do not work on are they guilty, are they not guilty? They just work, especially court-appointed defense attorneys. Second, she's not risking her career at all. This is her job. This is her job. So, like, separate Brian for a second. I'm talking just generally. Let's just take Anne with anybody defending anybody. It is her job to create reasonable doubt whether that fucker is guilty or not. Now, if it's your opinion that Brian is innocent, that's totally valid. I respect it, no problem. But Anne is not risking anything with her career because she's not lying. She could be pointing out very legitimate issues while at the same time he could be guilty. You know what I mean? Both can be true at the same time. He could be guilty and everything she could be saying is legit. That's her purpose. That is why she is there. It is to create reasonable doubt. More often than not, your defense attorney will not ask you if you are guilty. They do not want to know morally. They do not want to know. They will figure it out along the way because I think it'll be pretty damn obvious. But morally, they will not ask. Their job is to create reasonable doubt. Now, and again, I'm not talking about in the case against Brian. I'm talking in general. Just generally speaking, defense attorneys. Someone has to do it. Now, like in regards to Brian, even if he is guilty, these could all be legitimate issues and he is still guilty. You know what I mean? Like Brian can be guilty and the prosecution can have made a bunch of mistakes. You know what I mean? Like it's both can be true at the same time. But she didn't. Who said she lied, Tiffany? What is she lying about? Like that's the part that I get frustrated about. It's like it's either he's innocent or guilty. And if he's guilty, that means that Anne's lying about everything. That's not true. They're not synonymous with one another. It's not one or the other. Exactly. It's not mutually exclusive. Brian could be guilty and Anne's still not lying. These could all be legitimate issues. No, she absolutely can have something, or she's creating reasonable doubt. She's creating reasonable doubt. She could also have nothing and she could be creating reasonable doubt. It could be one way or the other. We're not going to know. But what I'm saying is that it could be one way or the other. She absolutely could have a grand slam, or she may have shit, but she's not, and it's still not lying. It's her job to create reasonable doubt. She's not risking anything. That's what she does. That's what her purpose is. Blackthorn says the fact that there are 24 different things instead of focusing on one or a few of the most important shows a lack of merit the motion holds. Well, I want to know. Oh, they absolutely do. And like I said, I've said from the beginning, I'm totally, like I said, as it stands now, I am of the belief that I'm leaning more towards Brian's guilt as it stands now. It's just my opinion. I could change it tomorrow depending on what comes out. I just acknowledge that if I'm putting a level of trust in there's going to be evidence to back up what they're saying, there's enough circumstantial evidence that points towards Brian's involvement. Now that can change tomorrow if something else comes out. But I have legitimate concerns that corners were cut, protocols were skipped, things of that nature. There was a high demand to make an arrest, and so things were sped up and not done correctly. That's a legit concern. Yeah, absolutely. Like, okay, let me put it this way. If I sat on a jury, because this is just me on my channel, like vocalizing my opinion. Now, if I sat on a jury, would I be able to convict him just based on what I had? No. But I don't think anybody should, right? Because what we have is only supposed to be a very small portion of what they are going to present. Um, and right now it's only words on a piece of paper. They have to back it up with evidence. And I don't think anyone should be, like, gotta wait to trial. They gotta prove it. The way to look at it is neither the defense or prosecution know shit from apple butter. What's apple butter when it comes to what happened that night? Each has a theory. Right. Either could be wrong using the same evidence. Yeah, the same way that the PCA is written to have a narrative that fits Brian as the killer, and is going to have a narrative that creates reasonable doubt that Brian is not the killer. One of them is true. Okay? One of them is true. Like, one of them is false. They're both doing their job. Yeah, what's apple butter? Apple butter jeans. No, that's bottom. Never mind. Apple bottom jeans. What? Yeah, or neither of them is true, right? Neither. That's true too. Sometimes they may get it right. Never usually fully 100% though. Apple butter jeans. I don't know what apple butter is. Hold on, I gotta Google it. What's apple butter? Hold on. Apple butter. Oh, what is this? Like jam? Apple butter. What is it though? Slow cooking apples with spices. So apples, like hot applesauce? This is listen, we don't have that shit in New York, okay? I've never been to Crackle Barrel. I've heard of it though. Whatever, man. Whatever. Applesauce cooked and cooked until it's sweet and thick. It's like cinnamon apple jam. I gotcha. What do you put it on? Toast? Dude, all right. Enough. I hate when you guys come at me over some South thing I don't know. I don't know. Oh my god. The jovial jerk. What did I say? A cracker barrel. Yeah. All I know is that they have rocking chairs on the front of it, but I've never been there. I'm sure the prosecution occasionally gets it wrong, but definitely not this time. Stop it, Susie. I don't know. Susie. I think it's a condiment. I would do with it what I do with jam, except I don't do jam. But I know you put jam on toast. So like, just. It's whatever. There's no way they got more evidence and not leaking it. I don't buy it. Actually, I'm surprised with how little has leaked, if I could be perfectly honest. I'm just going to keep. I just repeated myself, but yeah. I'm very surprised. I don't know about that, Manders. I don't think I want hot applesauce. That texture is kind of. I think it did misbehave, and it did. It did. Um. Oh. I don't know. I don't know if the prosecution has it down tight. I still wonder why they put the murders between 4 and 425 when you see him speeding away at 420. Like, why did I? But I try to ration with myself, and I'm like, all right, maybe because they don't want to get hung up on the camera times. But that bothers, so like maybe they're not as tight and it's a lot looser. What about character evidence? It is claimed that evidence of his studies can be relevant. And they did bring it up. Yeah, they did bring it up. That's no value and is just prejudicial. Do students of a crime have a greater likelihood to commit offenses? Then we're all screwed. Welcome, Amy Terry. Thank you so much for becoming a member. Well, how do you know it didn't, Casey Rain? You know, I mean, at this point, we've discussed it enough times to where majority people think it didn't. Maybe a partial plate. But I don't know. That's a great question. I'd be surprised if it didn't pick up even a partial plate. I really would be. I know that as many cameras as there are, all right, it had half the likelihood of catching the plate because it only had one, but none of it caught. Like, if we're assuming they didn't catch it on any camera, because we don't know if they did. Which, what did I forgot already what I said. Estimated time only. But it is just strange, right? That they put the murders occurring at, like, Brandon Mayfield. I don't know, but I don't know, but I don't know if I put too much weight into the shithole PA post. Heather B. I don't know. That one was a little bit more specific. Yeah, that one was a little bit more specific. But we can't just pick and choose what we want from the post, right? Because to be fair, the other half of the post, as far as we know, was not true. It was a very graphic post. So we're choosing to pick out the half that was true. But it is, yeah, they got it right. I would assume it did, Susie. Yeah, with the bombings, right, Suthi? He was like wrongfully um there was something like, I think, with like a fingerprint, if I'm not mistaken. Well, okay, so let's say that Anne is successful with getting this dismissed. It's just going to start the whole process again, right? So what do you think she's looking to achieve? Just like a better chance next time at not getting him indicted, or do you think there's a bigger purpose? Aren't a lot of the 24 things they didn't want to be a part of the grand jury because they thought it was prejudicial, like the 404B? Isn't that asking for his prior crimes being excluded? Okay, let me continue. Yeah, let me continue on looking. I stopped midway through because I got into like the apple bottom jeans. Yeah, but that expert is being called and said they had the wrong person. They locked him up. Let him stay in jail anyway. Facebook. FBI flew to Spain to tell him. That's horrible. Yeah. It's terrifying. That's okay. So I understand that these are all legitimate issues, but in my opinion, I think it's more likely that this is what Anne's doing. And I respect anybody else who thinks different. And I'm open to it being more. Don't get me wrong. But I think that more of these issues than not are just trying what she can. But that's just my opinion. And I totally understand people have differing opinions. That's what I want. Okay, so the jovial juror. So that's a great question. So even if you account half, that's what I'm saying, Kingsguard. They would just indict him again. So I'm trying to figure out what Anne's motive would be to dismiss this. And I'm not saying it's stupid. Like, hell yeah, fight everything. Go, girl. Like, that's, keep doing your thing. But I'm trying to figure out if there's a deeper purpose, like if there's something else she's trying to get from it. Because the only thing that I could see is, hey, we're going to fight everything, and maybe the next grand jury won't indict you. Or is there something else she's going for? But the jovial juror, even if we account for half those terabytes, yeah, it doesn't have to be BK lovers, but if you account for half the terabytes for being a bunch of irrelevant footage, and when I say irrelevant, I mean not actually containing something in the moment versus a lot of hours before, a lot of hours after, context footage and things like that, that still leaves like 26 that's a lot of information. And I think List, the Long Island serial killer, had 8. With what? Sleuthy. 6 months without it. Okay, so Amy says they didn't want to waive speedy trial, erasing the. Oh. Okay, wait, okay. You're right. You're right. Would that still be the case now? If she was able to get this dismissed, would it just start it all over again? It would, wouldn't it? Would it start it all over again? Thank you, Miss Behaven. Well, now that's so. What would be the purpose now? The 6 months would start now. It would do it even if she got the approved now. Ooh, I see. Okay. Thank you. All right. Good. Thank you. Okay, Michelle. Okay. Talking about 3D virtual scan. Oh yeah, they did. They did take the 3D virtual scans. 15,000 plus tips, surveillance footage, hours upon hours from tons of places, ring footage, recorded interviews, body cam footage, crime scene photos. But still, Sleuthy, 52 terabytes is a lot. It's still a lot. I forgot. I don't want to like repeat it because I totally forgot what it was, but they translated it into like how many movies it would be, and it was like an insane amount. I couldn't, and I don't remember it, but when I figure it out, I'll tell you guys. What do you think? That's true. That's true. Everything is different. You know what? That is something that we're probably going to see as time continues with technology, is the amount of data going up. You know what, Heather B? That's a good point. That's a good point. There's a lot of people who do think that there were more than one weapon used. Oh, okay. Thank you. Thank you, Kim M2. Thank you so much for the super sticker. Okay, so it says, I commented that I felt like the prosecution sent over all that data to create busy work for the defense. They sent over 50 terabytes of data. Let's compare. Amazon's database, customers and items sold, 43 terabytes. Google Earth database, 70 terabytes. Despicable Me creation, 142 terabytes. IRS compliance database, 150 terabytes. IRS tax records for each year, 15 to 20 terabytes. They sent over a fifth of Pandora, y'all. Wait, hold on. Pandora stores 250 terabytes of music. They sent over a fifth of Pandora. Do you understand just how much data they sent over? What the heck would take up that much data? Oh, that's a lot. Hey, Maze. Yeah, that's a lot. How much is 52 terabytes of data? It's about 3/4 as much as the Google Earth database. Damn! It's about 2/5 as much as the Hubble telescope. Shut the front door. You got the Hubble telescope. The Hubble telescope. Oh. Oh my God. It's 1/10 as much as YouTube's entire video database. 1/15 as much as Google's entire database. Dude, I love the Hubble telescope, okay? And 1/20th as much as Facebook's photo storage. Oh, wow. Hey, Katie K. Hey, Nace, do you know what apple butter is? I think the suspect has entirely too much time on his hands, and that no suspect of such a grievous crime or any crime really should not be allowed to design their defense. The truth will explain. Should not be allowed to design their defense. But you can't. Just because you're charged with a crime doesn't mean that you're guilty of the crime. And so to say that you can't design your defense means at the same time the possibility of you being innocent, and you can't defend yourself. You have to be able to defend yourself. Oh, okay, Shay. I just wanted to ask, Sleepy. Listen, just wanted to ask. She knew what the apple butter was. Because she's from Canada, so I need to know. AT thought the state was going to hand her what she wanted on a silver platter. Wrong. Keep searching, AT. What you saying they won't turn over might be, and that's who they sent you. See, I did find it interesting, though, because, you know, like Bill Thompson seemed frustrated. He seemed very frustrated because that's true, Casey Rain. Hi, Mars. Bill is like, we handed the defense over everything that we have. Ann's like, we're not satisfied. We're not sure that we've gotten all electronic communications, emails, texts, everything. And Bill's like, see, you're speculating. You're speculating there's more based on what? Like, if I have 5 pages of information and I hand you all 5 pages, and then you're sitting here saying, I think, you didn't hand us all, you didn't hand it all over. I handed you all 5 pages. That like more doesn't exist. That's what they're claiming, like that's what they're saying. And listening to that frustration, it's interesting. Claus, you know what apple butter is? I don't know what it is. Oh yeah, it has to come as Brian, like Mr. Kohberger raises. No, Anne raises it. Absolutely, they did, Moz. Well, they have to, because they have to give the unedited version. But at the same time, I'm sure they're trying to swarm them too. That would make sense, yeah. AT using almost the same exact filings, some almost identical word for word, where she makes the same. Really? Kingsguard, I want to see, like, message me. I want to see that. That's really interesting if she's using, I mean, it's not surprising. She's the same person throughout these cases. Hey, Crime Sleuthin. That's really interesting. The judge, I think, is being really fair. I think Judge is being as fair as he can be. You forget that they have the defendant, meaning if there's an interview not included or part of one, he can say, I know for sure this happened, it's not here. Or emails could be met. That's true. That is... I didn't think of that. That's a good point. That's a very good point. I think Judge is very fair, King Scarlet. I do. But defense has a team. I think they're... Okay, so how many of you guys think they're going to remove the cameras? I think they're going to. I think they're going to. We have Brian Kohberger, through his attorney, files this motion to remove cameras from the courtroom for the remainder of the proceedings in this matter, pursuant to his right to a fair trial and the effective assistance of counsel guaranteed him by the 6th and 14th Amendments to the United States Constitution and Art 1, Section 13 of the Idaho 13 Constitution. Camera-wielding courtroom observers have failed to obey the court's June 27th directive to cease focusing exclusively on Mr. Kohberger, necessitating the expulsion of cameras from future proceedings. The question presented by this motion is whether Mr. Kohberger faces deprivation of his right under the 14th Amendment to due process by the continued televising and broadcasting of his trial. Recent press behavior in the courtroom clearly demonstrates that such is the case. Nearly 2 months ago, on June 27th, the court warned press observers not to focus strictly on Mr. Kohberger and to show a wide shot of the courtroom if they wish to continue filming court proceedings live. Press observers have thus far failed to comply with the court's direction, as the continued publication of images such as those shown below continues to present day. Which, come on, let's be fair. Like, all right, you know, like, I gotta think fairly too, and like, that's hard. That's hard because it's like, obviously you're there to see him, but at the same time, you got to think he's innocent until proven guilty. And so he should have the right not to have a camera all up in his face the entire time, because he has to be given those rights of being innocent, you know, like, but I don't think that they were overdoing it. I really, and correct me if I'm wrong, I don't feel like I've seen an abundance of solo shots of Kohberger. I feel like every time he goes to the hearing, we've seen maybe a couple, not like a crap ton. So I don't think there's been a ridiculous amount, but I understand why she would argue this. So it says, these photos, a blatant violation of the court's directive to cease focusing exclusively on Mr. Kohberger in their own right, are also later appended to articles with blatantly sensationalistic and prejudicial headlines and content, the rightmost of the 3 photos above being used in an August 22nd Daily Beast article. Report says Kohberger's creepiness with women goes back to high school. Further, the camera's continued exclusive focus on Mr. Kohberger provides fodder for observers and purported analysis on social media who are not bound by notions of journalistic integrity and who have potentially an even greater reach than traditional media outlets. The proliferation of these images and videos is plainly observable on social media platforms such as TikTok and X, formerly Twitter, in posts such as those provided below. As the press itself notes in the court's June 27th admonition, the court referenced the recent Chad Daybell trial when cameras were asked to leave because they focused too much on the defendant. As he has previously been argued, the circumstances present in Mr. Kohberger's case are singular and pose an extraordinary risk of prejudice beyond even that posed. Observers' continued failure to comply with the court's June 27th directive compounds this problem and results in the potential jury pool's constant inundation with conclusory accusations and sensationalistic nonsense guised as factual reporting and analysis. You know what? That's actually true. That's actually a legitimate argument. To be fair, jury pool hasn't been picked yet, and to have his face so they can't control older photos. They can't control that. And taking older photos and tagging whatever headline that they want. But what they can do is not allow new photos of him to be taken and added to these headlines because you are tainting the potential jury pool. Now, yeah, I think that's fair. That's fair. And I'm trying to look at it, if you were completely innocent and you had to go through this, how much that would really impact going to trial. That you would be the public is swayed. Think about it even back in high school, okay? Seriously, just think about it back with like a little mean group of girls. If like someone said you were not cool, like, oh, no, we don't talk to, we don't sit with her, she doesn't even go here, right? Like everybody else kind of followed, like you got that label. People are persuaded very easily. And so if you're seeing Brian's face in that headline with all of these negative titles, you're going to associate the worst with him. I know, no way, but I feel like there are things that happen out of our control too. And I think that that's a fair thing to argue because, like, if he is innocent, how fair is it? I don't know. I'm just trying to be open-minded. People do have a right to free speech. And that's what I'm saying. You can't control the speech. You can't control the older photos, but this is something that you can control. And that's taking new photos from the courtroom. You know what I mean? Now, whether or not did they respect it, I don't know. To be fair, I wasn't watching close enough how many photos they were taking from when they were last told not to currently to say. It wouldn't surprise me if like they didn't listen, but it also wouldn't surprise me if Anne's just making the argument because she doesn't want the cameras there. You know what I mean? So yeah, this just keeps going on. It says it deprives the petitioner of a fair trial, scrutiny, characterization. Yeah, but see with this isn't okay. But to be fair, with this, if this is just live streaming the the hearings, I don't think this is that zoomed up. This shows the defense table. And when we last watched the last hearing, they were zooming up just like this, and then they'd be zooming back out, and you'd see the prosecution and you'd see Bill Thompson get up frustrated. Then they kind of zoom up, but they weren't focusing solely on Brian. So I don't know if they're talking about just photos or just in general. But I know that last moment with the horrible audio, it seemed pretty fair. Like they weren't just focusing solely on Brian. Why was Anne wearing that mask? You think so, Angels? I think for the most part, they were zooming in and out. The one with really bad typing, the audio, the last one that we watched. Hi, Lady V. Oh, someone in the court had COVID. Okay. Okay. Anne had COVID. She also said the bailiff was saying something to the camera guy during the hearing. What does that mean, though? Anne had COVID. She also said the bailiff was saying something to the guy. Like specifically, like about zooming in or something. Yeah, but were they like Angels? But were they staying zoomed on Brian's face, or were they on Brian's face for like 1 minute of the entirety of the hour? I don't think she's a crap trial lawyer, Cheryl. I think everything Anne is doing is let me be clear, whether I'm leaning towards Brian's guilt or not, I think Anne is doing what she should be doing. The bailiff caught them trying to see papers on the defense's desk. Oh, you know what? It's because I'm referring to the 1 hour clip I played, though. That's why. He does have a fan base, but everybody, Bundy had a fan base. Dahmer had the Night Stalker had a really big fan base. There were so many girls who loved the Night Stalker, which I don't know why, because he reeked. That was one thing his victims said. Like, there were survivors that the stench, like people at the Cecil Hotel, the stench radiated off him. Like, he didn't brush his teeth. He stunk to high hell. Yet, and I'm big on like hygiene, so like once I hear like that, just but there were fan girls for Richard Ramirez. So it doesn't surprise me that there's a fan base. I didn't think they did. You know what? Let me check. Yeah, you didn't know that? Okay, the Night Stalker, Richard Ramirez. The Cecil Hotel, the same hotel that Elisa Lam mysteriously ended up at the water tank on top of. A lot of sketchy ass shit. Cecil Hotel, also one of the last places the Black Dahlia was seen alive at. Richard Ramirez lived there for a portion of time when he killed so many of his victims. He stunk. They said he stunk. Yeah, exactly, Jaded. He stunk to high hell that, like, when he'd walk down the hallway of the Cecil Hotel, it would just linger. And that I think it was he broke in. It was a victim, but she managed to get away. Something to where he didn't kill her. And what stuck out in her memory was the smell, his smell. And that was just like, ugh. Yet in court, if you go back and like look up Richard Ramirez, girls loved him. They loved him. Huh. Oh. It wouldn't be on that. It would be on Law and Order. Law and Crime. Never mind. Shoot up, shooby-doo. Shoot up, shooby-doo. All right, I don't feel like doing this, actually. It's just going to take forever. He did get married. Bundy got married and a woman pregnant in jail. Look. So, how Richard Ramirez decaying, gross teeth helped catch and convict the serial killer. Why did serial killer Richard Ramirez attract fangirls? See, there's so many. So Ramirez's terrible teeth were more so between him and Bundy, both their teeth, right? Were more than just a cringe-inducing detail. They also helped catch and convict him. Ramirez's dental hygiene was an issue starting at a young age. He was drinking Coca-Cola and eating sugar-covered cereal. He'd never brush his teeth, and his childhood friend used to tell him to close his mouth or brush his teeth. So his sweet tooth followed him into his life of petty crime, shoplifting junk food. His personal hygiene really fell off at the age of 18 and became addicted to cocaine. He developed several cavities after he was arrested. Multiple forensic dentists took casts of his teeth. At trial, they testified that 9 of Ramirez's teeth were decayed and that he was missing several teeth from both his lower and upper gums. 3 separate encounters with Ramirez were still on the loose. Ramirez's teeth were also regularly identified by the victims fortunate enough to survive his break-ins. One of his victims told police he had bad teeth. Same goes by for another victim, and that he stunk. So yeah. Yeah, he had all the fangirls. Yeah, Jodi Arias. Hell yeah. Yup. Chris Watt. Dude. I forgot there's a name for it. Aw, thank you, Susie. There's a name for it. I don't remember, where people are attracted to people who are in jail. I'll show you Richard Ramirez. You want to see Richard Ramirez? Hyperstophilia. Thank you. Desperate. I sleep in. Okay. So this, hold on. Right there. You see it? Ready or not, here I come. You can't hide. I'm gonna find you. Watch the video of him being captured. But they loved Richard. And look into the Cecil Hotel, guys. And they even did a documentary on it on Netflix. It's not called the Cecil Hotel anymore. They renamed it because there was so much shit attached to it. Yeah, harlot. He was, yeah. Dude. I may not know what apple butter is, Alien to Live and Love It, but I most certainly know what the Hubble telescope is, because I absolutely love astronomy, anything outer space. And it's the first telescope that was launched into low Earth orbit back in 1990. And it remains in operation to this day. I love me some outer space. Claus, you won't get to sleep then. This is him in court. Look at him with the pentagram. This is him. Seriously, they beat the ever loving crap out of him. Well, if you want to go down to the conspiracy side, there's a conspiracy side of it, Casey Rain. Yeah, well, he got his teeth fixed. Rather shit in my hands and clap. In the courtroom. Oh, yeah. There's a conspiracy side. Oh, with everything with space. It's very interesting. I've done many lives on it. Oh, yeah, the Night Star. Yeah, it's an interesting one. Everything, honestly, like, look up the Cecil Hotel. Everything about the Cecil Hotel and Richard Ramirez. He's the Night Stalker. What he did was he moved in the night and preyed on his victims and broke in and RAPED'd and murdered and just, yeah. Right, Jen Puff? Okay. So the couple other new motion, well, no, they're not actually. Why wasn't it posted? Actually, why wasn't it posted? Okay. So we have the notice of hearing, September 1st. Will call on for hearing the defendant's motion to remove cameras for the courtroom in the above entitled manner on September 1st at 1 p.m. or as soon thereafter as counsel may be heard in front of the Honorable Judge John Judge. Counsel for the defendant hereby gives notice of the intent to present oral argument and or testimony in support of said motion. Put a 1 in the chat if you think Judge John Judge is going to approve this motion. I believe he is going to. I think he is going to remove cameras out of this courtroom. I do. Nika says 1. It's Mimi says 1. Susie says 1. Lady B says 1. Market's 1. Jada says probably. Casey says 1. King says 2. The house huddle, hi. Claus says 1. Angel says 1. Kim M2 says 1. Melissa says 1. You don't, Nace? Crime Suthin says I don't. Opinionet says 2. You think he'll give one more chance? I don't know. Shay. Don't mess with me like that. Yeah, all he has to do is watch the footage. Yeah, I guess. Amy Terry says 2. Then we have the defendant's seventh supplemental request for discovery. Please take notice that the undersigned, pursuant to Rule 16 of the Idaho Criminal Rules, the 4th, 5th, 6th, 8th, and 14th Amendments to the Constitution of the United States and Articles I and 1, 2, 13, and 17 of the Constitution of the State of Idaho, requests discovery and inspection of all materials discoverable by defendant per ICR 16B 1 through 8 and the aforementioned constitutional provisions, including but not limited to the following information, evidence, and materials outlined in Exhibit F. So this is interesting. So again, this circles back around to what we were discussing earlier. Anne has something very specific in mind. She has something very specific in mind. And it's almost like, hey, Truth Matters. It's almost like she knows what she hasn't been giving. So now it's making me think of what Sleuthy mentioned before. And when Sleuthy said that, well, it can even, like with Kohberger, he was present for certain things. So he would know if something wasn't there, maybe. It could be like something like that. Yeah, Jaded. That's what King Scarlet. That's what I don't know, man. I'm trying to keep an open mind. trying to keep an open mind. And I really do have an open mind. I do. I swear. Crime Sleuthin says, Exhibit F is a defense exhibit, so I wonder what it is. I was wondering what Exhibit F is. Thank you. Yeah, I still think it's about Bethany. Yeah, well, I loved what you played, Crime Sleuthin. I said it to Shay the other day on your live. You played the clip from Grizzly, and she said, stay in the sane lane with this case. And it stuck with me. I thought it was really cute because it's so true. Because with this case, it's gotten so deep down the conspiracies. So it's like, stay in the sane lane, I think it was. I agree, Lori. I like the transparency, but oh, if we could only be so lucky, legendary. So then the next one we have off the chain. Stipulated motion to file Exhibit F attached to the defendant's 7th supplemental request for discovery under seal. So this is what we're just referring to. So it says, hereby moves the court for an order to file Exhibit F of defendant's 7th supplemental request for discovery under seal. This motion is made because 1, the documents contain facts or statements that might threaten or endanger the life or safety of individuals. 2, it is necessary to preserve the right to a fair trial. And 3, disclosure would constitute an unwarranted invasion of personal privacy. Wait, what? What? We've heard that before. That was a flashback. If you guys remember, we had heard that way back in the beginning. Great, legendary. The documents contain facts or statements that might threaten or endanger the life or safety of individuals. What are we talking about here? Hey, Richie. Do you guys remember we heard this way back in the beginning? What document said that? It was the Washington search warrant that said that? I remember hearing it way back all the way in the beginning. I don't know, opinionated. Washington search warrant? Hold on, I gotta write that down so I don't forget that. Washington search warrant. Threaten or endanger. Threaten or endanger. The documents contain facts or statements that might threaten or endanger the life or safety of individuals. It is necessary to preserve the right to a fair trial. Disclosure would constitute an unwarranted invasion of personal privacy. All right, whose? Whose Whose statement do you think this is? Do you think it's a statement, Sleuthy? Yes, that's right. Do you remember that? Exactly. That's interesting. I'm going to try to look into that a bit more. Do you think that the exhibit's going to be a statement? Like, because if it's, okay, hold on. It's a request for discovery. Request discovery and inspection of all materials discoverable by defendant and the aforementioned constitutional provisions, including but not limited to the following information, evidence, and materials outlined. Okay, never mind. In Exhibit F. Okay, never mind. Outlined in Exhibit F. And then Exhibit F is going to contain facts or statements that might threaten or endanger the safety of individuals. Huh. Oh, thanks, Riddler, for being a member for 6 months. It's going to be that Huh. Sure, this the breaks. Hold on, I gotta write this down so I don't lose my damn thought. I don't expect shit. I hope for it, though. Yeah, Crime Soothin'. It loses its kick when you realize literally everything they seal lists the same exact reasons. Yeah. It's a standard discovery request. Glowbug, thanks for being a member for 5 months. And thanks for being here listening. Harvard lawyer Lee. She is superb. Well, I like your choice of words, and I will definitely check her out. Thank you for the recommendation. Okay. Then we have the Lady V. Thank you for being a member for 2 months. Appreciate your support. So this is the order to file defendant's Exhibit F attached to the defendant's 7th supplemental request for discovery under seal. Seems like majority of lawyers' work is paperwork. So the court having before it the defendant's stipulated motion to file Exhibit F attached to the defendant's 7th supplemental request for discovery under seal and good cause appearing now, therefore, it is hereby ordered that the defendant's Exhibit F attached to their 7th supplemental request for discovery shall be filed under seal pursuant to ICR 32 I2D and E and IC 74-1241B and C. And then the last one we have is the Unravel. Order extending time to respond to defendant's motion to dismiss indictment and continue hearing. So it says, based upon the state's motion to extend time to respond to defendant's motion to dismiss indictment and to continue hearing filed herein on August 24th, 2023, and there being no objection from defense counsel, the court does hereby order that the state's response to the defendant's motion shall be filed no later than September 14th, 2023, and the defense's reply filed no later than September 20th, 2023. The court further orders that the hearing set on September 1st is vacated and reset to commence on September 22nd at 10:30 a.m. Okay, Lori, I'll check it out. Yeah, OJ. I think OJ's guilty. I know, Sleuthy. It doesn't mean they've asked 7 times for anything. They're all different discovery requests that go with their exhibits, A through F, now handed over. Both sides still doing discovery, dying to know what they all are. It's interesting. Seventh discovery request. Legendary. With their exhibits, A through F. Uh-huh. And then I wanted to Napu. I'm probably butchering it. Versus Illinois. That they reference to. In the motion to dismiss. He was convicted of murder. The principal state witness and accomplice, then serving a 199-year sentence for the same murder, testified in response to a question by the state's attorney that he had received no promise of consideration in return for his testimony. The assistant state attorney had in fact promised him consideration, but he did nothing to correct the witness's false testimony. The jury was apprised, however, that a public defender had promised to do what he could for the witness. The failure of the prosecutor to correct the testimony of the witness, which he knew to be false, denied petitioner due process of law in violation of the 14th Amendment. The established principle that a state may not knowingly use false testimony to obtain a tainted conviction does not cease to apply merely because the false testimony goes only to the credibility of the witness. The fact that the jury was apprised of other grounds for believing that the witness may have had an interest in testifying against petitioner was not sufficient to turn what was otherwise a tainted trial into a fair one. Since petitioner claims denial of his rights under the federal constitution, this court was not bound by the factual conclusion reached by the Illinois Supreme Court, but re-examined for itself the evidentiary basis on what that conclusion was founded. So they're using that as the reference. Okay. chit chat. So why would you could get him out of my chat. Thanks. You're not welcome here. When you threaten to come to my hand deliver receipts to my front door, you're no longer welcome here. Because that's not how I do shit here. So bye-bye. Well, to be fair, the Blackthorn, I see that a lot. Rolo, Sleuthy, I had him on my panel a couple of weeks back, gave him a chance, wasn't picking up what he was putting down, and then he left comments underneath my video getting nasty, and I was like, you're just mad that you weren't able to back it up with receipts. And he's like, how about I deliver those receipts to your front door? That's a threat. I perceive that as a threat. That's not fucking cool. And so you're no longer welcome here. Because there's no reason why you should take it to that fucking level, in my opinion. We're on YouTube. And so, yeah, he could leave my chat. I wouldn't do that chit chat. I don't know if it's worth it. Yeah, the only thing probably worth it chit chat is the apple butter. No, I don't think it's cool either. It is a little scary. I mean, I think it's just shit talk, but either way, I don't think it's cool to do that. You bring receipts. If you don't have the receipts, you don't get mad to the point where you say, "Oh, I'm gonna hand deliver them to your front door." Don't get mad at me. You couldn't produce them. But what I was saying is, a lot of times they will reference cases that are a lot older. I don't think that's unusual. Perfect to the exact issue. But if this is an issue very much relevant, well, and I think that's what I don't think, because I've seen they do that a lot. And the only reason I know that is because that has stood out to me before, where the same way that was like, wow, why'd they pick a case that was so old? I've said that to myself in previous court documents, and it's like, why did they do that? I'm like, why did they pick such an old reference? I don't know why they pick older references, but they've done that in many other cases, not just this one. And that's what I want to kind of like pick it apart a little bit more, Sleuthy, and try to figure out like why specifically this one. Hey, Dick. It's from the 1959, not 1930s. But there's probably something very specific with this case that they're gonna try to use. Well, we could go do this. It's okay, Blackthorn. So they got a tip from WSU campus security because there was a bolo right? They were asked to kind of keep an eye out for this specific make model. WSU campus security guard took the time to go through footage from that night, saw that there was this car leaving. This is the story, right? Saw this car leaving, called it in. Every car that's on the campus, it's going to be registered. All the information is going to be hooked up with it. As far as I know, they didn't even think much into it at that point, because when they pulled up his phone stuff, nothing was registering because his phone was disconnected from the network. Being arrested for unaliving 3 times. I don't know who we're talking about. Now I'm confused. He always likes to brag about being arrested. I probably missed something. And so, okay. And then what was it? I have it written down because when we finally figured out the how it unfolded, I wrote it down because we were trying to figure it out for so long. I forgot what the next thing specifically was, like what, and if you guys remember, you could remind me, like what alerted them back to even look back at Brian again. Well, yeah, that's not someone I want threatening to come to my front door. That's all I'm saying. Michelle busts like, I love when Michelle busts a caps lock. No, but it wouldn't have been the DNA because they. Oh, yes. I'm sorry. Thank you. Yeah, duh. Thank you. Yes, it was the DNA. Then with the genealogical testing, which was happening simultaneously at the same time. Good night, Jen Puff. Awesome. I'll see you tomorrow. Have a good night's rest. The genealogical testing that was happening at the same time happened to narrow down and led them along the path to Brian. But then they needed to do a direct STR comparison. Can't sit with us. I read it in the Mean Girl voice too. Most people can't spell correctly when they insult, like WSU Kim. You are 87. Read what? Okay. Read this. I did it. Technically, I did it. Unless you're referring to something else. Is a big comment coming? I'm waiting. Oh, I was reading it. I was waiting for a long ass comment, man. Okay. So it says, at the murder trial of petitioner, the principal state witness, then serving a 199-year sentence for the same murder, testified in response to a question by the state's attorney that he had received no promise of consideration in return for his testimony. The assistant state attorney had, in fact, promised him consideration, but did nothing to correct the witness's false testimony. The jury was apprised, however, that a public defender had promised to do what he could for the witness. The question presented it whether, on these facts, the failure of the prosecutor to correct the testimony of the witness, which he knew to be false, denied petitioner due process of law in violation of the 14th Amendment to the Constitution of the United States. The record in this court contains testimony from which of the following facts could have been found. The murder in question occurred early in the morning of August 21st, 1938 in a Chicago, Illinois cocktail lounge. Petitioner Henry Napu, the witness George Hammer, one Poe, and one Townsend entered the dimly lighted lounge and announced their intention to rob those present. An off-duty policeman present in the lounge drew his service revolver and began firing at the four men. In the melee that followed, Townsend was killed, the officer was fatally wounded, and the witness, Hammer, was seriously wounded. Napu and Poe carried Hammer to the car, where a fifth man, one Webb, was waiting. In due course, Hammer was apprehended, tried for the murder of the policeman, convicted of his plea of guilty, and sentenced to 199 years. Subsequently, Poe was apprehended, tried, convicted, sentenced to death, and executed. Hammer was not used as a witness. Thereafter, petitioner Napu was apprehended. He was put on trial, with Hammer being the principal witness for the state. Hammer's testimony was extremely important because the passage of time and the dim light in the cocktail lounge made eyewitness identification very difficult and uncertain, and because some pertinent witness had left the state. On the basis of the evidence presented, which consisted largely of Hammer's testimony, the jury returned a guilty verdict and petitioner was sentenced to 199 years. Finally, the driver of the car, Webb, was apprehended. Hammer also testified against him. He was also convicted of murder and sentenced to 199 years. Following the conviction of Webb, the lawyer who, as former assistant state's attorney, had prosecuted the Hammer, Poe, and Napu cases, filed a petition in the nature of a writ of error coram nobis on behalf of Hammer. In the petition, he alleged that, as prosecuting attorney, he had promised Hammer that if he would testify against Napu, a recommendation for a reduction of his Hammer's sentence would be made, and if possible, effectuated. The attorney prayed that the court would effect consummation of the compact entered into between the duly authorized representatives of the state of Illinois and George Hammer. This coram nobis proceeding came to the attention of Napu, who thereafter filed a post-conviction petition in which he alleged that Hammer had falsely testified that he had been promised no consideration for his testimony, and that the assistant state attorney handling the case had known this to be false. A hearing was ultimately held at which the former assistant state attorney testified that he had only promised to help Hammer if Hammer's story about being a reluctant participant in the robbery was borne out, and not merely if Hammer would testify at petitioner's trial. He testified that in his coram nobis petition in Hammer's behalf, he probably used some language that he should not have used in his zeal to deal with something for Hammer, to whom he felt a moral obligation. The lower court denied petitioner relief on the basis of the attorney's testimony. On appeal, the Illinois Supreme Court affirmed on different grounds over two dissents. It found, contrary to the trial court, that the attorney had promised Hamer consideration if he would testify at petitioner's trial, a finding which the state does not contest here. It further found that the assistant state's attorney knew that Hamer had lied in denying that he had been promised consideration. It had held, however, that petitioner was entitled to no relief since the jury had already been apprised that someone who Hamer had tentatively identified as being a public defender was going to do what he could in aid of Hamer and was trying to get something did for him. We granted certiorari to consider the question posed in the first paragraph of this opinion. First, it established that a conviction obtained through use of false evidence known to be such by representatives of the states must fall under the 14th Amendment. The same results obtained when the state, although not soliciting false evidence, allows it to go uncorrected when it appears. The principle that a state may not knowingly use false evidence, including false testimony, to obtain a tainted conviction, implicit in any concept or ordered liberty, does not cease to apply merely because the false testimony goes only to the credibility of the witness. The jury's estimate of the truthfulness and the reliability of a given witness may well be determinative of guilt or innocence, and it is upon such subtle factors as the possible interest of the witness in testifying falsely that a defendant's life or liberty may depend. As stated by the New York Court of Appeals in a case very similar to this one, it is of no consequence that the falsehood bore upon the witness credibility rather than directly upon defendant's guilt. A lie is a lie, no matter what its subject, and if it is in any way relevant to the case, the district attorney has the responsibility and duty to correct what he knows to be false and elicit the truth. That the district attorney's silence was not the result of guilt or a desire to prejudice matters little, for its impact was the same, preventing, as it did, a trial that could in any real sense be termed fair. Second, we do not believe that the fact that the jury was apprised of other grounds for believing that the witness Hamer may have had any interest in testifying against petitioner turned what was otherwise a tainted trial into a fair one. As Mr. Justice Schaefer, Joint Chief Justice Davis, rightly put in his dissenting opinion below, what is overlooked here is that Hamer clearly testified that no one had offered to help him except an unidentified lawyer from the public defender's office. Had the jury been apprised of the true facts, however, it might well have concluded that Hamer had fabricated testimony in order to curry the favor of the very representative of the state who was prosecuting the case in which Hamer was testifying, for Hamer might have believed that such a representative was in a position to implement any promise of consideration. That the assistant state's attorney himself thought it important to establish before the jury that no official source had promised Hamer consideration is made clear by his redirect examination, which was the last testimony of Hamer's heard by the jury. I don't have to read it's just, Mr. Hamer and the jury's conversation back and forth. Third, the state argues that we are not free to reach a factual conclusion different from that reached by the Illinois Supreme Court, and that we are bound by its determination that the false testimony could not in any reasonable likelihood have affected the judgment of the jury. The state relies on Heisler versus Florida, but in that case, the court held only that a state standard of specificity and substantiality in making allegations of federal constitutional deprivations would be respected, and this court made its own independent examination of the allegations there to determine if they had in fact met with Florida standard. The duty of this court to make its own dependent examination on the record when federal constitutional deprivations are alleged is clear, resting, as it does, on our solemn responsibility for maintaining the Constitution inviolate. In cases in which there is a claim of denial of rights under the federal Constitution, this court is not bound by the conclusions of lower courts, but will re-examine the evidentiary basis on which those conclusions are founded. It is now so well settled that the court was able to speak in Curlum Limerick Inc. As previously indicated, our own evaluation of the record here compels us to hold that the false testimony used by the state in securing the conviction of petitioner may have had an effect on the outcome of the trial. Accordingly, the judgment below must be, in relevant part, his petition reads as follows. After Hamer was sentenced, your petitioner, well knowing that identification of Poe, Napoo, and Webb, if and when apprehended, would be of an unsatisfactory character and not the kind of evidence upon which a jury could be asked to inflict a proper, severe penalty, and being unable to determine in advance whether Poe, Napoo, and Webb would make confessions of their participation in the crime, represented to Hamer that if he would be willing to cooperate with law enforcing officials upon the trial where they were apprehended, that a recommendation for a reduction of his sentence would be made and, if possible, effectuated. If the Constitution and laws of the United States are to be enforced, this court cannot accept as final the decision of a state tribunal as to what are the facts alleged to give rise to the right or to the bar the assertion of it, even upon local grounds. Woo! Dude, that's actually really interesting, and I hope you guys were following that with me, because I think we could see where they're going with that. Yo. Yes, King Scarlet. So what I'm reading is Napoo versus Illinois, and this is what Anne referenced in her motion to dismiss. And that is what I'm picking up, Nika. Shut up, Shay. Read it again. Fuck out of here. Dude. Especially when it's like legal terminology. Dude, to have to read that shit and it's like that long. Ooh, my tongue starts to dance. Shut up. Is she trying to imply that someone got a deal to testify? And does this tie in with the exculpatory evidence? Where's Sleuthy? Sleuthy? Is that the entirety of what I just read? Basically, both were involved in the crime, right? But one was promised either a lesser sentence or completely dismissed to testify against the other one. But the prosecutor did not disclose it, did not openly acknowledge it to the jury. The jury had no idea that they were promised it. And that's something they need to know. That's why they always ask it, were you promised anything in exchange for your testimony today? Shut the fuck. You guys are dick. Don't make me look down at my mute. Come on. Don't scare me like that. Ugh. Does this tie in with the exculpatory evidence? Was something said that could be taken as incriminating in some possible way, and some deal was made in exchange for freaking testimony. Thanks, Tony. You also just made me look down at my camera, too, to make sure it wasn't on. Well, maybe it's not Dylan or Bethany, Harlot, right? But why would she reference Napoo versus Illinois? This motion is based on the state's various violations during the grand jury pursuant to Idaho Code XYZ, Idaho Rules of Evidence, all these numbers, and prosecutor misconduct pursuant to Idaho Criminal Rule 6.1B1 and Napoo versus Illinois 360 U.S. 264 1959. That is the case we just read. Shy. But it's interesting because she's basing it off something. Even if it leads to, I don't want to say nothing, but like nothing substantial, she's basing it off something. And that's interesting. And could this tie into... well, no, that's more IGG. That's more IGG now. Shut up, 87. I'm just trying to be open, and I'm trying to, like, see all sides here. It's just so hard because we just don't know. Napoo versus Illinois, 1959, Richie. I'm sure every interview defense has specifically asked if whoever it was. Oh, absolutely. Claws. It's really interesting. You know what? To be fair, Nika, I don't know that. That's something I'll have to look into more. I don't know if there's someone in the chat who would know that answer better. If it's normal for a defense to file more motions than the prosecution. I don't know the answer to that. Tony, thank you. I want to shampoo and conditions MJ's eyebrows. I mean, thank you. I don't know if there's enough brow to do that with. Like, unfortunately, I overplucked in middle school. So, like, I don't know if they're shampoo worthy, but we could try to get a rinse and lather going. Thanks, Michelle. The defense is the one waiting for all the information. They don't have to gather their own. They're supposed to be provided what the state has. That's the one waiting for all. But the only one saying they don't have the information, that's the hard part, Suvi. The defense is the one saying that they don't have all the information. The state's saying, no, but you do. So what are they basing it off of that they think they don't? It's like Anne knows what she's missing. Anne already knows specifically something she is missing. Chlo. Claws. Exactly, Shay. Well, the state is going to build their narrative around Brian. Defense is going to build their narrative around, reasonable doubt. That is true, Sleuthie. And they have to disclose it, right? They have to disclose it. You guys ever get like the little on the side of your nail, like the little cuticle like piece that lifts up, and you make the mistake of like, oh, like I'll just pull it, like, and it'll just like pull right, like just like the tiniest little, like, I'll just pull it right off, and that shit when you pull ends up being like like when you like open like a new pack of cigarettes or something, and like that cellophane, like that plastic long fucking like that shit ends up fucking starts ripping down your whole fucking finger. And it's yes, bee crumbs. Because I just started to do it. I'm like, oh fuck that. Nope, I can feel it. Like, because you can feel whether it's gonna be like a quick little pop right off, or oh fuck no, I'm not doing this shit. No. That shit, it's like a fucking zipper, like all of a sudden whoop, no, goes down my whole damn finger. Shit hurts like a mother fudger. And SARS is the most deceiving tiny little, just like a little boop. And it's like, just going past your knuckle. Oh my God. Does it ever end? I should have just used the cuticle cutter. Just why did I have to be so lazy? Because you always go for the pull instead of getting your lazy ass up and getting just the snippers, just to snip it. You always just pull. Don't pull it. Oh man. And I started to pull and now it's already hurts like a fucker. Yeah, then you get like halfway through and you just do the fucking pull. You just do the 1, 2, 3, oh! Hope for the best, and then you get a bleeder. Ah, not a hangnail, no. The cuticle, like a little, like girls know, like just a little piece of a cuticle that'll start to lift up, and then your whole finger comes off with it. Oh my God. Well, it is sleuthing because, like, my freaking nail kit is in eye distance too. But it's like, nah, I haven't learned my lesson the past 32 years. I'll just pull it. Like, no. Yeah. I'm telling you, man, that shit hurt. It's called a hangnail? I thought it was called cuticle. Just, it's called a bitch. That's what it's called. That's what it's called. It's called a freaking bitch, okay? Oh man. Ow, it hurts. All right, I think that's when I gotta call it a night. I gotta cut my cuticle because this is gonna bother me, and if I don't, I'm just gonna sit here and just no, because I didn't pull it yet, but like it's bothering me, you know. And so before I sit here and like unconsciously do it, I gotta get up and I gotta go get my cuticle clippers. A Band-Aid will just cover it up. But either way, this is really interesting. I'm really interested with the Napu versus Illinois. I can't see why Anne would reference that if there were two things that were interesting. The part where, hey, your testimony is not reliable because of the poorly lit. That was interesting. And then some type of deal in exchange. What is this? Mortal Kombat? King Scarlet? Choose your tool. Finish the hangnail. Jesus. God, don't get me started. I've been started. Just don't encourage me. I gotta pee too, so it'll make me tinkle. So I'm really curious about that, but I'm gonna look into it more. But I guess we'll see. I'll keep you guys posted. But tomorrow I'm doing Twisted Tuesday, so we're going to be going over the Sarah Boone and the Letitia Stout jailhouse phone calls, and Sarah Boone most likely going pro se now. So if you're interested in that, it's already scheduled. Make sure you set your reminder. And thank you so much for everyone for being here tonight. I got to go hop off and take care of this. I got to go finish it. And so I hope you all have a wonderful night. Thank you all so much for being here. Thank you all for being so respectful, being able to have adult conversations, differing opinions, and just being civil about it. That means so much to me. And yeah, I hope you have an amazing night, and I will see you guys tomorrow.